The life you are living right now is not being controlled by your circumstances nearly as much as it is being controlled by a collection of ideas that were planted in your subconscious mind long before you consciously chose them. That realization alone has the power to change everything. Most people spend years trying to alter results while leaving untouched the hidden mental programming that produces those results. They work harder, learn more, and push themselves further, yet they continue arriving at the same destination because the internal blueprint remains unchanged. The results you experience are not random. They are expressions of a paradigm operating beneath your awareness. You may believe you are making conscious decisions throughout the day, but much of your behavior is automatic. The way you respond to opportunity, the way you think about money, the way you handle rejection, the way you see yourself when no one is watching. These patterns are often governed by subconscious conditioning. A paradigm is more than a habit. It is a network of beliefs, perceptions, and emotional responses that forms your internal reality. It quietly dictates what you believe is possible, what you think you deserve, and how much success you allow yourself to experience. Consider for a moment the possibility that your greatest limitation has never been a lack of resources, education, connections, or luck. What if the true limitation has been an image you have been carrying of yourself? What if you have unconsciously accepted an identity that is far smaller than your actual potential? Human beings rarely outperform the image they hold of themselves. They may achieve temporary victories, but lasting transformation requires something deeper. It requires a shift in self-perception. The self-image acts like an invisible thermostat. No matter how high you attempt to climb, your subconscious mind will often pull you back toward what feels familiar. This is why some people sabotage opportunities just as success begins to appear. It is why others remain trapped in cycles they desperately want to escape. The paradigm seeks consistency. It will protect an old identity even when that identity creates pain. Until the self-image changes, sustainable external change remains difficult. Yet there is something extraordinary about you that many people never fully understand. You are not your conditioning. You are not your past decisions. You are not the labels placed upon you by family, society, or previous failures. Beneath every conditioned belief exists an infinite capacity for growth. The mind is adaptable. The subconscious is impressionable. What was programmed can be reprogrammed. What was learned can be unlearned. The moment you truly accept responsibility for your inner world, your power begins to return. Responsibility is often misunderstood. It is not blame, it is recognition. It is the awareness that while you may not have created every circumstance, you possess the ability to create your response. That response shapes your future. Every great transformation begins when a person stops asking why life is happening to them and starts asking how they can consciously participate in creating what comes next. Think about the frequency you carry throughout the day. Every thought generates energy. Every emotion broadcasts a signal. When your dominant emotional state is fear, doubt, scarcity, or resentment, you become aligned with experiences that reinforce those states. When your dominant state becomes gratitude, certainty, creativity, and possibility, your perception changes. Opportunities that were previously invisible begin to appear. Conversations become different. Decisions become different. Outcomes begin to change. This is not magic. It is awareness. You cannot consistently create abundance while emotionally rehearsing scarcity. You cannot build confidence while constantly reinforcing insecurity. You cannot experience freedom while remaining emotionally attached to limitation. Your vibration reflects what you repeatedly think, feel, and believe. The world often mirrors the frequency you embody. There was a woman named Sarah who spent years believing she would always struggle financially. She worked hard, cared deeply about her family, and possessed remarkable intelligence. Yet she continually found herself living paycheck to paycheck. Every time an opportunity appeared, an internal voice would whisper that she was not qualified, not capable, or not worthy of greater success. One evening, after another disappointing setback, she made a decision that seemed insignificant at the time. She decided to stop focusing on her circumstances and start examining her self-image. She realized she had spent decades identifying herself as someone who survived rather than someone who created. She had unconsciously built an identity around limitation. For months, she deliberately changed the way she spoke to herself. She studied success principles. She visualized a different future. She stopped defining herself by past failures and began identifying with the person she wanted to become. The external changes were slow at first. Then something remarkable happened. Her decisions began to shift. She applied for opportunities she previously avoided. She negotiated with confidence. She took calculated risks. Within a few years, her financial situation transformed dramatically. What changed first was not her income. It was her paradigm. That is the hidden sequence most people miss. Results follow identity. Identity follows belief. Belief follows repetition. The subconscious mind accepts what it is repeatedly exposed to with emotional conviction. This means that every day you are either reinforcing an old paradigm or creating a new one. There is no neutral position. Your thoughts are shaping your future whether you are aware of it or not. Imagine releasing the belief that you are behind in life. Imagine releasing the belief that your past determines your future. Imagine releasing the belief that success belongs to someone else. What would become possible if those limitations disappeared? How differently would you think? How differently would you act? How differently would you feel? The answers to those questions reveal the doorway to transformation. Growth is not about becoming someone else. It is about uncovering who you really are beneath the conditioning. The potential within you is not waiting to be created. It is waiting to be expressed. Every vision you hold, every desire that refuses to leave your mind, every dream that continues calling your attention may be pointing toward a greater version of yourself attempting to emerge. The paradigm can change, the self-image can expand, the subconscious can be reconditioned. And the moment that happens, the world begins responding differently because you begin showing up differently. New actions emerge naturally. New possibilities appear naturally. New levels of abundance become available naturally. Right now, in this very moment, you have the opportunity to make a decision. Not a decision about what you will do tomorrow, next month, or next year. A decision about who you are becoming. Because every lasting transformation begins with identity. Every breakthrough begins with belief. Every extraordinary result begins as an invisible shift within the mind. The person you are capable of becoming already exists as a possibility within you. The only question is whether you will continue honoring the old paradigm or step into the new one. The moment you choose growth over conditioning, possibility over limitation, and vision over fear, you begin moving toward a completely different future. And perhaps the greatest realization of all is this: the life you desire is not waiting somewhere outside of you. It has been waiting for you to become the version of yourself who believes it is possible. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to Proctor Mindset Lab and begin transforming your mind today. Most people underestimate the power of a single decision because they confuse decisions with wishes. A wish is something you hope for while remaining emotionally attached to your current identity. A true decision is different. A true decision creates an internal separation between who you have been and who you are determined to become. The moment a genuine decision is made, something shifts within the subconscious mind. Energy that was once scattered begins moving in a unified direction. The mind starts searching for evidence that supports the new identity rather than the old one. This is why transformation often feels uncomfortable before it feels empowering. The old paradigm does not disappear quietly. It resists, it questions, it attempts to pull you back into familiar patterns. You may notice old fears resurfacing. You may hear internal voices reminding you of past failures. You may feel tempted to retreat into habits that no longer serve you. None of this means you are moving in the wrong direction. In many cases, it means you are approaching a breakthrough. Imagine a seed buried beneath the soil. Before it emerges into the light, it must push through darkness and resistance. The pressure it encounters is not evidence that growth is impossible. The pressure is evidence that growth is occurring. Human development follows a similar pattern. Every expansion of consciousness requires the release of something that once felt safe. The challenge is that most people have been trained to trust their current results more than their future vision. They look at their bank account and allow it to determine their beliefs. They look at their circumstances and allow them to dictate their expectations. They look at temporary conditions and treat them as permanent realities. Yet every achievement that has ever existed was created by someone who refused to accept present appearances as final truth. Your future is not hidden somewhere in the distance. It is being constructed by the thoughts you repeatedly entertain today. Every assumption becomes a direction. Every belief becomes a filter. Every emotional pattern becomes a magnetic force, influencing your behavior and perception. The subconscious mind is always listening. It does not evaluate whether an idea is empowering or limiting. It simply accepts repetition and emotion as instructions. That understanding changes everything. If you repeatedly tell yourself that opportunities are scarce, your mind will unconsciously search for evidence to support scarcity. If you repeatedly tell yourself that success is available, your awareness begins identifying possibilities that previously escaped your attention. The world may appear unchanged, yet your experience of it transforms completely because your perception has shifted. Perception is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. Two people can stand in the same environment and experience entirely different realities. One sees obstacles, the other sees opportunities. One sees uncertainty and retreats, the other sees uncertainty and grows curious. The difference is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not circumstance. It is paradigm. Have you ever noticed how certain individuals seem to move through life with an unusual level of certainty? They are not immune to difficulty. They experience setbacks like everyone else. They encounter rejection. They face disappointment. Yet they remain emotionally anchored. Their confidence does not depend on temporary outcomes because it is rooted in identity rather than results. This is a profound distinction. When confidence depends on results, it becomes fragile. A setback destroys it. A criticism weakens it. An unexpected challenge shakes it. But when confidence emerges from self-image, it becomes resilient. You trust yourself not because everything is working perfectly, but because you know who you are becoming. The most successful people are often those who learned how to separate their identity from temporary conditions. They understand that failure is an event, not a definition. They understand that mistakes are feedback, not verdicts. They understand that growth requires experimentation, adaptation, and persistence. Consider how differently you would approach life if you truly believed that every experience was contributing to your expansion. How much fear would disappear? How many opportunities would you pursue? How many dreams would suddenly feel attainable? The mind expands in proportion to the vision it accepts. When your vision is small, your energy contracts, your creativity diminishes, your motivation fades. But when your vision becomes larger than your current circumstances, something remarkable happens. Dormant abilities begin awakening. New ideas emerge. Hidden strengths reveal themselves. You start discovering capacities that were always present but never activated. This is one reason purpose is so important. Purpose is not merely about career or achievement. Purpose creates alignment. It organizes thought. It directs energy. It gives meaning to effort. A person connected to purpose can endure challenges that would overwhelm someone focused only on immediate comfort. Yet purpose often reveals itself gradually. It rarely arrives as a dramatic revelation. More often it unfolds through curiosity, growth, and courage. It emerges when you stop asking what the world expects from you and start asking what life is attempting to express through you. There is a unique combination of talents, perspectives, experiences, and potential that exists only within you. The tragedy is not that people fail to achieve greatness. The tragedy is that many never discover how extraordinary they truly are because they remain trapped inside identities they outgrew years ago. The paradigm that once protected you may now be limiting you. The beliefs that once felt reasonable may now be restricting your expansion. The story you have been telling yourself may no longer be true. And if that story is no longer true, why continue living as though it is? A new identity is formed every time you choose possibility over fear. Every time you act in alignment with your future rather than your past. Every time you refuse to let old conditioning dictate new decisions. These moments may seem small, but they accumulate. They reshape neural pathways. They influence emotional patterns. They gradually construct a completely different self-image. One day you look back and realize the person who once doubted everything has been replaced by someone who trusts their potential. The person who once hesitated now acts with purpose. The person who once felt trapped now sees endless possibilities. The external transformation is visible, but the real miracle occurred internally long before anyone else could see it. That internal transformation is often invisible to the outside world. Friends may not notice it at first. Family members may continue relating to the version of you they have always known. Some people may even resist your growth because your expansion challenges their assumptions. This is why personal evolution requires a certain level of emotional independence. If your identity depends entirely on external validation, you will constantly be tempted to return to familiar patterns simply to maintain approval. The truth is that every meaningful paradigm shift involves leaving something behind. Sometimes it is a limiting belief. Sometimes it is an outdated self-concept. Sometimes it is an emotional attachment to a story that no longer serves your future. Growth asks for a release before it offers a reward. Many people spend years trying to add more success to their lives without removing the mental barriers preventing success from entering. They seek new strategies while holding on to old assumptions. They search for better opportunities while maintaining the same level of self-worth. Yet life tends to reflect not what you want, but what you are prepared to receive. That idea can be uncomfortable, but it is also deeply liberating. If your external experience is influenced by your internal state, then you are not powerless. You are not at the mercy of random circumstances. You possess the ability to alter the very foundation from which your actions, perceptions, and decisions emerge. The moment you recognize this, you stop viewing yourself as a spectator and begin seeing yourself as a creator. Creation always begins in the unseen. Every building exists first as an idea. Every invention begins as a thought. Every achievement starts as an image held in the mind before it appears in physical reality. The same principle applies to personal transformation. Before you become confident, you must begin seeing yourself as confident. Before you become prosperous, you must begin identifying as someone capable of creating prosperity. Before you become the person you envision, you must mentally occupy that identity. This is where many people become impatient. They expect immediate evidence. They want proof that the process is working. Yet the subconscious mind operates much like nature itself. There is often a period when growth is occurring beneath the surface. The roots develop before the tree becomes visible. Internal change precedes external manifestation. Imagine waking up every morning with complete certainty that your future is larger than your past. Imagine carrying yourself with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that temporary setbacks cannot stop permanent growth. Imagine approaching opportunities not from desperation but from abundance. How differently would you speak? How differently would you think? How differently would you move through the world? These questions are not merely exercises, they are invitations. The mind cannot consistently hold a new image without gradually moving toward it. This is why visualization has remained such a powerful tool throughout the history of achievement. It is not about fantasy, it is about familiarization. The subconscious mind becomes increasingly comfortable with what it repeatedly experiences emotionally and mentally. The more vividly you identify with a greater future, the less foreign that future begins to feel. Eventually, what once seemed impossible starts feeling natural. And when something feels natural, your behavior changes. You no longer need constant motivation because your actions become expressions of identity. A person who sees themselves as healthy behaves differently than someone trying to become healthy. A person who identifies as successful thinks differently than someone merely wishing for success. Identity influences behavior at a level far deeper than willpower. This is why lasting change rarely comes from forcing yourself. Force creates resistance. Identity creates alignment. Think about how often people attempt to change through struggle alone. They fight their habits. They criticize themselves. They use guilt as motivation. For a short period, they may experience progress, but eventually the old paradigm reasserts itself because the underlying identity remains untouched. Real transformation feels different. It is less like a battle and more like an awakening. You begin noticing thoughts that once controlled you yet no longer seem convincing. You begin observing fears that once felt overwhelming yet now appear temporary. You start realizing that many limitations existed only because they were accepted as truth. Awareness breaks their spell. This is one of the greatest powers available to any human being. The ability to observe a belief without obeying it. A thought appears. You notice it. You choose whether to strengthen it or release it. That moment of awareness creates freedom. Without awareness, conditioning runs automatically. With awareness, conscious creation becomes possible. As your awareness expands, so does your capacity to influence the direction of your life. You become more intentional with your attention. You become more selective about the ideas you entertain. You begin understanding that attention is one of your most valuable resources because whatever consistently occupies your mind eventually shapes your reality. Energy flows where attention goes. If your attention remains fixed on problems, problems expand within your awareness. If your attention focuses on possibilities, solutions begin emerging. This does not mean ignoring challenges. It means refusing to become psychologically trapped by them. Great achievers acknowledge difficulties while remaining committed to larger visions. There is an extraordinary difference between reacting to life and directing it. Reaction is driven by circumstance. Direction is driven by purpose. Reaction keeps you emotionally dependent on external conditions. Direction allows you to maintain inner stability regardless of conditions. The more your identity aligns with purpose, the less power temporary obstacles have over your emotional state. You stop measuring progress solely by immediate results and begin measuring it by who you are becoming through the process. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen character. Every setback becomes an opportunity to deepen understanding. Every experience becomes part of a larger journey of expansion. And perhaps that is the deepest shift of all. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to get somewhere and start recognizing yourself as someone continually unfolding into greater levels of awareness, abundance, creativity, and potential. Life ceases to be a race for validation and becomes a process of expression. The version of you that created your current reality has brought you this far. Be grateful for that version. Respect the lessons it learned, honor the challenges it survived, but do not mistake that version for your final form. There is more within you than you have expressed, more wisdom than you have shared, more courage than you have demonstrated, more abundance than you have experienced, more potential than you have imagined. And every moment you choose to think, feel, and act from a higher paradigm, you move one step closer to becoming the person you were always capable of being. As that higher paradigm begins to take root, something subtle yet profound starts happening within your daily experience. Situations that once triggered frustration no longer possess the same emotional power. Challenges that previously felt intimidating become opportunities to practice a new level of thinking. You begin noticing that the world itself has not changed nearly as much as your relationship with it has changed. This is one of the least understood aspects of transformation. Most people imagine that success arrives when external conditions finally align with their desires, yet the individuals who create extraordinary lives often discover the opposite. Their internal state changes first, and that shift influences everything else. They begin operating from a different mental and emotional frequency long before visible results appear. When you operate from a higher frequency, you stop making decisions from fear. Fear narrows perception. It causes the mind to focus on loss, risk, and limitation. It encourages hesitation at precisely the moments when courage is required. Fear convinces people to remain where they are because familiarity feels safer than possibility. Yet safety can become a prison when it prevents growth. Consider how many dreams remain unrealized, not because they are impossible, but because someone chose certainty over expansion. How many opportunities disappear because an individual waits until they feel completely ready? How many talents remain hidden because a person assumes they need permission before expressing them? The truth is that readiness is often created through action, confidence is developed through experience, clarity emerges through movement. Waiting for perfect certainty can become a sophisticated form of avoidance. The paradigm of limitation thrives on postponement. It whispers that tomorrow will be a better time, next month will be easier. Next year will be more convenient. But growth only occurs in the present moment. The future is shaped by what you repeatedly choose today. Every thought you accept is a vote for a particular identity. Every action reinforces a belief about who you are. Every emotional reaction strengthens either an empowering paradigm or a limiting one. Over time, these seemingly insignificant choices accumulate into an entire life experience. This is why awareness must be accompanied by discipline, not harsh discipline rooted in self-criticism, but conscious discipline rooted in purpose. The discipline to direct your attention toward what you wish to create. The discipline to protect your mind from ideas that weaken your vision. The discipline to remain committed to growth even when immediate evidence is absent. There will be moments when your old conditioning attempts to regain control. That is natural. Paradigms developed over years do not disappear overnight. They dissolve through consistent replacement. Each time you choose a more empowering belief, you weaken the old pattern. Each time you act from your future identity rather than your past conditioning, you strengthen a new pathway. Eventually, what once required effort becomes automatic. This is the remarkable power of repetition. The subconscious mind learns through repeated exposure. It accepts patterns that are consistently reinforced. If you repeatedly identify with possibility, possibility becomes familiar. If you repeatedly embody confidence, confidence becomes natural. If you repeatedly think from abundance rather than scarcity, abundance begins influencing your decisions in ways that compound over time. The process may appear invisible, but its effects are undeniable. Think about a river carving its way through stone. The water does not achieve this through forceful intensity applied once. It achieves it through consistent application over time. Human transformation follows a similar principle. Small shifts in thought, repeated daily, eventually reshape an entire identity. Many people search for dramatic breakthroughs while overlooking the extraordinary power of consistent mental conditioning. They want transformation to arrive in a single moment. Occasionally it does. More often it unfolds through countless small decisions that gradually create a new self-image. One empowering thought, one courageous action, one intentional choice, repeated again and again until the old paradigm can no longer sustain itself. At that point, the change becomes undeniable. You begin attracting different conversations because your thinking has evolved. You recognize opportunities that previously escaped your awareness. You communicate differently because your self-perception has expanded. Even your posture, tone of voice, and presence begin reflecting a deeper level of certainty. People may describe you as lucky. They may assume external circumstances suddenly improved. What they do not see is the internal work that preceded the visible results. They do not see the beliefs you challenged. They do not see the fears you confronted. They do not see the countless moments when you chose growth over comfort. Yet those invisible victories are often the most important victories of all. A person who masters their inner world possesses a level of freedom that external achievements alone cannot provide. Wealth can create options, but emotional mastery creates peace. Recognition can create influence, but self-awareness creates wisdom. Achievement can create success, but alignment creates fulfillment. Without alignment, even remarkable accomplishments can feel empty. With alignment, every step forward becomes meaningful. This is why purpose remains such a powerful force in personal development. Purpose gives direction to growth. It transforms ambition from a pursuit of status into an expression of contribution. It shifts the focus from acquiring more to becoming more. And when becoming more becomes the objective, every experience gains value. The challenge is no longer, how quickly can I achieve my goal? The question becomes, who must I become to express my highest potential? That question changes everything. It redirects attention away from circumstances and toward identity. It encourages responsibility instead of blame. It invites expansion rather than comparison. Most importantly, it reminds you that transformation is not something granted by the outside world. It is something cultivated from within. There is immense power in realizing that your future self is not a distant stranger. That future self is being created right now through the thoughts you nurture, the beliefs you strengthen, and the actions you repeatedly choose. Every day you are either moving closer to that version of yourself or reinforcing an older identity. The choice belongs to you. No one else can make it on your behalf. No one else can think your thoughts, direct your attention, or define your self-image. That responsibility may seem significant, but it is also the source of your freedom. Because if your mind can be conditioned, it can be reconditioned. If your paradigm can be learned, it can be changed. If your identity has been shaped by repetition, it can be reshaped by conscious intention. And when that realization fully settles into your awareness, something extraordinary happens. You stop searching for permission. You stop waiting for ideal circumstances. You stop looking outside yourself for the power that has always existed within. Instead, you begin trusting the creative potential of your own mind, the wisdom of your own growth, and the limitless possibilities available to a person who consciously chooses a higher paradigm. From that point forward, life is no longer something that happens to you. It becomes something you participate in creating.
One of the most important ideas in success psychology is that people rarely behave according to what they consciously want. They behave according to what they subconsciously believe. This distinction explains why so many intelligent, capable people struggle to create the results they desire. Most people assume that if they want something badly enough, they will naturally move toward it. Yet human behavior does not work that way. The subconscious mind is often far more influential than conscious desire. You may consciously want financial freedom, confidence, better health, or greater success, but if your subconscious programming contains beliefs that conflict with those goals, the subconscious usually wins. Think of the conscious mind as the captain of a ship, and the subconscious mind as the engine room. The captain decides where the ship should go, but the engine room provides the power that determines whether the ship actually moves in that direction. If the captain gives instructions but the engine room is programmed differently, progress becomes difficult and frustrating. This is why many people experience the same patterns repeatedly throughout their lives. They promise themselves they will save money but continue overspending. They decide to become more confident yet still avoid opportunities. They want healthier relationships but keep attracting similar experiences. The problem is not a lack of intelligence or motivation. The problem is often subconscious conditioning. A useful way to understand the subconscious mind is to think of it as a collection of programs. Just as a computer runs according to its software, human behavior often runs according to mental programs installed through repetition and emotional experiences. Many of these programs were created long before a person became aware of them. Childhood experiences, family beliefs, school environments, cultural influences, and repeated emotional events all contribute to subconscious programming. For example, imagine a child who repeatedly hears adults say, "Money is hard to earn," or "rich people are selfish." The child may not consciously analyze those statements. However, the subconscious mind absorbs them. Years later, that person may genuinely want financial success while simultaneously feeling uncomfortable around wealth. They may unknowingly sabotage opportunities because success conflicts with their deeper programming. The same principle applies to confidence. A person who repeatedly experiences criticism during formative years may gradually develop a subconscious belief that they are not good enough. As an adult, they may possess tremendous ability, yet hesitate to speak up, apply for promotions, start businesses, or pursue ambitious goals. Their actions appear irrational on the surface, but they make perfect sense when viewed through the lens of subconscious programming. This brings us to one of the most powerful concepts in personal development: self-image. Self-image is the mental picture you hold of yourself. It is your internal definition of who you believe you are. Most people focus on changing their behavior without changing their self-image. That approach rarely produces lasting results because behavior naturally follows identity. Imagine two people attempting to improve their finances. The first person secretly sees themselves as someone who always struggles with money. The second person sees themselves as someone who is becoming financially responsible and capable. Both may receive the same advice, but their results will often differ dramatically because their self-images influence their decisions. The first person may unconsciously look for evidence that confirms limitation. The second person may look for opportunities to confirm growth. The self-image functions like an invisible boundary. People often live within the limits of what they believe they are capable of achieving. If someone sees themselves as average, they may unconsciously avoid extraordinary opportunities. If someone sees themselves as valuable and capable, they tend to take actions that reflect that belief. This does not mean confidence should be based on fantasy. It means confidence should be based on possibility. One of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that beliefs are facts. In reality, many beliefs are simply ideas repeated so often that they feel true. Consider a person who believes they are bad with money. Where did that belief come from? Perhaps they made mistakes in the past. Perhaps they grew up around financial stress. Perhaps someone repeatedly told them they were irresponsible. Eventually, repetition turned an experience into an identity. That process happens more often than most people realize. Beliefs are typically formed through two powerful forces: repetition and emotion. When an idea is repeated often enough, the subconscious begins accepting it as true. When an idea is connected to strong emotion, it becomes even more deeply embedded. This explains why emotionally charged experiences often leave lasting impressions. A single embarrassing moment can influence confidence for years. A powerful success experience can increase belief in one's abilities almost instantly. The encouraging news is that the same mechanism that created limiting beliefs can also create empowering beliefs. The subconscious mind can be reconditioned. The first step is awareness. Most people cannot change a pattern they cannot see. Start paying attention to recurring thoughts, emotional reactions, and behaviors. Notice situations that trigger fear, doubt, procrastination, or self-criticism. Instead of judging yourself, become curious. Ask simple questions. What belief might be creating this behavior? What story am I repeatedly telling myself? Is this belief helping me grow or keeping me stuck? Awareness creates distance between you and the pattern. Once you can observe a belief, you are no longer completely controlled by it. The second step is intentional repetition. If old beliefs were strengthened through repetition, new beliefs must be strengthened the same way. This does not mean blindly repeating affirmations you do not believe. It means consistently exposing yourself to ideas that support the person you want to become. Read empowering material. Listen to constructive messages. Visualize yourself acting from a stronger identity. Spend time thinking about possibilities rather than limitations. The goal is not instant transformation. The goal is gradual reconditioning. The third step is identity-based action. Many people wait until they feel different before they behave differently. In reality, small actions often help create new feelings. If you want to become more confident, take small actions a confident person would take. Speak up in a meeting, start a conversation, express an idea. If you want to become financially responsible, begin managing money in small, intentional ways. Save a little, track spending, learn basic financial skills. These actions may seem insignificant, but they send powerful messages to the subconscious mind. Every action becomes evidence supporting a new identity. Over time, the mind begins updating its self-image to match repeated behavior. This is how genuine transformation occurs. Not through a single breakthrough moment, but through a series of conscious choices repeated consistently over time. The subconscious mind learns, the paradigm shifts, the self-image expands, and as identity changes, results naturally begin to follow. The person who once saw limitation begins seeing possibility. The person who once doubted themselves begins trusting their abilities. The person who once felt trapped begins recognizing their power to create change. That is the deeper lesson behind all personal transformation. When you change the image you hold of yourself, you begin changing the life you are capable of creating.